Hello, everyone. My name is Frank Anthony, and welcome back to Let Me Be Frank, episode 70. The big 7-0. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I want to just say thank you guys so much for listening or becoming a producer, buying merch, or all of the above. Just thank you so much for checking out the show and letting other people know about the show and letting me know, whether it's in a review or a private message, that you like the show, or even any like constructive criticism. I'm definitely open to that stuff, and that's also helped me transform the show as well. So just I really appreciate it all so much, and I can't say thank you enough to all that. So country rankings. Last week there was no new episodes, so it's kind of the same numbers. I think it changed very slightly. United States the last time was 89, now it's 90%. Canada is 2%, Australia 1%, and the UK, United Kingdom, 1%. So pretty much the same numbers there. Like I said, no new episodes. I think it would take a good amount of people to really start shifting some of the numbers in other countries, which is why I always say, hey, if you're in those other countries that's not the United States, definitely share the show. It's super appreciated to do that, and the more people that listen, the more that those percentages will go up, and yeah, just help me out overall. And then we can all become like a collective of talking about the show and stuff. So, and just, yeah, I really appreciate, like I said before, I appreciate any type of support that you give the show and stuff. And even these numbers they're still good to me. Hey, there's a bunch of other countries that have checked out the show too. And that's always just fascinating to me. So instead of the comment of like the top comment thing that I was doing for a couple episodes, now I'm getting some episodes done ahead of time, meaning it's tough to do top comments because now there's not the social media posts that are coming out before I actually record. Like now that episodes are already done and over with, and then I'm going to be advertising them, it's hard to get comments. I mean, I could maybe say them in like way later episodes, but then people at that point, I feel like would be like, what is he talking about? Why is he referencing an episode from like 4 or 5 episodes ago? Like any pieces of information or anything like that. So instead, I started asking you guys actually today to start sending me some quotes, and I will read a quote at the beginning of every episode. So, I'm a big quote guy. So I don't know if you guys like quotes, but quotes definitely, I feel like they help with just, I don't know, like getting, if I'm ever feeling down, I feel like they help with like getting through the day for a second, or a tough moment, or just even when you're in a good mood, they're inspiring and they help. So they just, I don't know, I feel like they help with a positive mood and a positive mindset. So today's quote of the day was submitted by producer Jennifer H. Her quote is, a bit of advice given to a young Native American at the time of his initiation. As you go the way of life, you will see a great chasm. Jump. It is not as wide as you think. And that quote is from Joseph Campbell. I really like, I do really like that quote. We have to, I think about the show for me, the show can kind of relate to that quote and a couple other things in life too. But with the show, I never thought I would have a podcast, and it's like if I never took that leap, then yeah, I wouldn't be here and stuff. And there's a couple other things in life that even if I don't do them anymore, I'm still thankful that I jumped. And I like to believe that a lot of things happen for a reason, and that if we're not taking chances in life, then most likely nothing's going to change. And some people might think, oh, that's a good thing, I don't really like change, but there's a lot of good change that you're avoiding when you do that. If you're that person, I can relate to this. If you're that person that is just always staying in their house, and you're not ever going anywhere, and you're not ever making new experiences with other people, or even new experiences by yourself that's not in the same environment 24/7, then yeah, I mean, it's just not going to be, it is going to be the same thing for the most part. And, I believe we need new experiences in order to continue growing and just opening the mind more and more. otherwise. We kind of end up staying the same type of person. And while you may be a good person, it's like you can always, I feel like everyone can always still be greater and better, and like we all have better versions of ourselves. And I know if I never did that, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I really needed, personally, I needed that transformation. So today's episode is going to completely focus on, I don't know why I even wanted to talk about this, but then I thought about it and I was like, I feel like it's interesting. So we're going to be talking about guilty pleasures. You probably saw in the title anyway, but I'm going to go over some of my own guilty pleasures, and then some people sent me some of their guilty pleasures that I'm going to kind of assess. And I'm going to try, I'm not like, if I end up laughing at anything, like I'm not like trying to judge your guilty pleasure or anything, or like shame anyone for anything that they have a guilty pleasure of, because that's not the point of this. It's just it's something I never thought, it might be something I never thought of myself, or that's just so creative. There's one, at least one on here that is extremely creative that I would have never imagined. So and if I forget to say this towards the end of the episode, comment when the Instagram posts do come up, comment on those, some of your own guilty pleasures, and maybe some of those will be read for the next episode, for the next Wednesday or Friday episode, Tuesday or Friday episode. What am I? I'm on an old schedule. I'm sorry. I'm always changing things. I feel bad. I do feel bad. All right. So one of my guilty pleasures. So one of my biggest guilty pleasures. Well, first of all, like, what is a guilty pleasure? And how I identify a guilty pleasure is something that you really enjoy, but you're embarrassed to like really share with anyone else. And what I also mean by that is it's also legal, or that's what I want to add to this definition, because immediately I just thought of someone being like, well, my guilty pleasure is loving children when you're like a grown ass adult. And it's like, well, no, that's not a guilty pleasure, that's a crime. So so that's like not the same thing. It's like when some people that might indulge in like chocolate, like, which even that, honestly, that's not even really guilty pleasure. I guess it could be, but like, who doesn't like chocolate? Who doesn't? Chocolate and cheese, the double C's. I mean, I know there's some people that might not be able to eat chocolate or cheese, but like I've never really met people that are like, oh my god, I hate chocolate or I hate cheese. I feel like that's kind of criminal, but that's just my opinion in general. Obviously, if you can't eat it, don't eat it. I'm not being like, oh, if you don't eat that stuff, you're not cool, because and then someone gets an allergic reaction or they have like a sensitivity. No, I don't want that at all with that. But yeah, I'll start going through some of my guilty pleasures to give you guys some ideas. One of my absolute guilty pleasures, this is like, to this day, not as much lately, but I mean, this guilty pleasure started like probably high school, maybe high school, because junior high, I don't think, maybe a little bit, but yeah, probably mostly like beginning of high school, maybe end of junior high, but definitely binge watching reality TV shows. That is definitely one of my biggest. It's funny, and I kind of make fun of myself when when I do posts that are related to quotes or like TED Talks or self-help, and, wanting to be in like a healthier space. And then at the same time, in the back of my mind, I know I've watched like Flavor of Love, Rock of Love, Survivor, Hell's Kitchen, Charm School, I Love Money, which most of those were reality TV shows on VH1. Like, I've been so guilty of loving Bad Girls Club is another one I actually watched. I hadn't watched that show for years, and then once I started to, I ended up watching a lot of seasons. But now looking back, I'm gonna pick on that show a little bit, because looking back specifically, I remember enjoying that show, watching it, because like the drama was just so ridiculous. But now thinking about it, it's so stupid, that concept, because if you're not familiar with what Bad Girls Club is, it's a bunch of women living in a house and they end up just like fighting each other. And literally that's the premise. And if you fight too hard at the beginning, I think it was like you couldn't hit anyone, but then they realized for ratings, they like wanted these girls to hit each other and pretty much, yeah, just like beat the shit out of each other. So if that ever happened, usually a girl was kicked out of the house or whatever. So, and there was no prize money or anything. It wasn't like trying to be like the last person in the house or anything. Like, that could have been like a nice little spin, like some sort of like Big Brother related type thing. But no, there was just none of that. It was just fighting for other people's entertainment. And those girls really, like the girls that had to live in the house, I can only imagine the hell that some of them had to go through with that type of experience. It's like going back to high school and being like bullied or some shit. So looking back now on that show, I'm like, it's a very immature show, and just like kind of disgusting in a way. I'm not gonna lie. Like, let me be frank. It's not really a show I would want my kids to watch, or just would really recommend to people now, because it's just such a negative representation of women and how women should treat each other. And I don't know. It was just like too far. Whereas like some of the other ones, like Flavor of Love, is a bunch of girls going for the rapper Flavor Flav. And that one was like a little, there was a couple scenes where like, some tension and stuff, and there was fighting on the show, but most of it wasn't physical whatsoever. And they don't really want to, they don't really want to be with Flavor Flav. Like almost none of them really did. I mean, it was more about probably like getting a career on TV and stuff, and like starting to build the portfolio and all of that. You know what I mean? Like I don't think a lot of them didn't even know. I I think about like The Bachelor. I don't know how that works. I guess that one's by surprise. A lot of these love shows, they don't even know who they're going for. Like they're just signing up for reality TV, and then a lot of these people don't even know who the person is until they get there half the time, or maybe like a couple days before or something. They usually keep the person they're fighting for love as a secret. So that's why when people are like, "Oh, like you didn't come on TV for or like you didn't come here for this person," it's like none of you even knew who this person was to begin with. Like how can, like, no one really has like an amazing true attention going on a show like that. I guess there's a lot of love shows now. I know, what is it? Love is Blind. They tried to kind of make it like a different concept where you didn't see each other and stuff. But even still, like just reality TV in general, it's not real for the most part. Like obviously what they're going through is like those experiences are real, but like production and like they're creating certain stories for TV to make it entertaining, because it's like, what do we want more, entertainment or the truth? Which, I mean, of course, like having the truth is nice, but it's boring. The truth is boring sometimes when it comes to like this type of TV. So of course they're going to give you drama and a storyline to make you want to come back and stuff. But yeah, these reality TV shows, all the ones that I listed, at least I've watched. Well, so Flavor of Love and Rock, the VH1 ones that I mentioned, so excluding Survivor and Hell's Kitchen, all those other ones, I've watched all those to the full extent, probably like about 2 or 3 times each full. Like I could probably do it again. Like they are entertaining. It's that like 2000 to 2010 era. I want to say yeah, I think they all happened within that time. And 2000 to 2010 was a very interesting decade for when it came to music and fashion and just everything. I feel like it was just such a mess that we started the century. And this type of TV really showed that, yeah, it was just like, wow. But it also was kind of like the beginning of these types of shows that we do have out today. In a way, I believe they kind of paved the road. Survivor, I think Survivor started, I don't think it was the 90s. I think it was the year 2000 that Survivor started, or something like that way. And Hell's Kitchen, I can't remember, but I think it was early 2000s that show started. And those shows have like Hell's Kitchen has like at least 17 or 18 seasons, maybe even another, I don't even know, at least 18 seasons, I think it has. And Survivor, oh my god, like what, doesn't Survivor have like 40 seasons or some shit? Like they Survivor, there's so many seasons of Survivor because they do all those different types of things. Yeah, those, I've watched a good amount of both of those. Survivor is oh my god, it's such a good show. Which that's another thing too, because you're like, I don't know, I think about it, and it's like, for someone who is like such a positive person. It's like, oh, like why do you enjoy this like manipulation between people and stuff? Because another show, I don't remember if I listed it, but Big Brother is another show that I hadn't really watched much, but I'm getting into it now, or I'm slowly like thinking about watching a bunch of it, because it's kind of similar to Survivor, but just like, you're stuck in a house instead. And, not Survivor. I could believe Survivor's tougher with like the physical challenges and just trying to survive and get food and shit. But I was like, I don't know if there's something wrong with me for like enjoying this type of content. But then at the same time, I went to school for psychology. I think what gets me more is not necessarily like, oh, like I love a good like manipulating of people and stuff. I think it's like studying human behavior, because with a show like Survivor or Big Brother, where you have to like vote each other out and stuff, you would think though that with seasons that every season would be extremely similar, and they're not. Still, like, they somehow, because everyone is different, every individual human being says and does things in different manners, that's what makes each season new and exciting without changing the concept. And I think that's what's fascinating to me, is how, at the beginning of these shows, usually people are getting along, and then you start seeing the like social manipulation. Cause at least with these two shows, with those other shows that I listed, most of those, at least Flavor of Love and Rock of Love, they're, it's like Bachelor style in the sense of they're like fighting for love. Whereas Survivor, you're trying to get money, a lot of money, and Hell's Kitchen, you're trying to get like this job to work with Gordon Ramsay. So it's like, so yeah, with a show like Survivor and Big Brother too, with like winning a lot of money, it's like those people aren't necessarily manipulative. I might leave that in there. I can't talk. I can't say the word manipulative behavior. Like, people aren't manipulative individuals in the outside world necessarily, but that they almost need to use that as a skill for this competition, because they really want to win the money. I mean, who wouldn't want to win 250,000 or $1,000,000? Like, yeah, there's a lot I would do to try to fight for that if I was on a show like that. I mean, I don't blame any of them for really trying to play a game in that sense, because it's like, that's life-changing money for so many of us. So I have quite a few more guilty pleasures. I went a little bit on tangent with that one, but that I love reality TV, unfortunately. But I will admit, I've been watching less reality TV and more like TED Talks and listening to like podcasts. I mean, reality TV, it was entertaining. It's obviously entertaining to watch, but with the other stuff that I've been listening to and watching lately, I do feel better, like, overall. I do feel a little bit healthier, but I also don't think I don't think like watching those other shows once in a while is like harmful or anything, especially if you realize it's not like 100% real. Like, you don't have to take it so to heart and like start bashing the people or start like obtaining the same personality traits or any of that stuff. So another guilty pleasure, I didn't even realize this was a guilty pleasure. A lot of these, actually, I didn't realize that I do. So reading novels for pleasure, like, that's a guilty pleasure. I thought people liked reading. I mean, I know there was a period in time, at least when I was younger, I'd hear people, I think it was like cool in junior high and high school to be like, yeah, I don't read. Reading's for nerds. When it's like, no, like, reading's actually like educational and it's fun and, it's enlightening. And I don't know. I don't think like reading's uncool anymore. I think a lot of people do like to read for pleasure. And even if you're someone that's like, oh, it's hard for me to sit down for a long period of time with a book. It's like, there's magazines, there's reading, like, or yeah, or like maybe finding like the right genre for you. Like, maybe a historical fiction novel isn't for you, but maybe something more on like the erotica side or romance is more for you, or maybe you're a thrill seeker, and there's so many different genres. And that that doesn't make, like, reading, just for the most part, isn't boring as long as you can find the right niche or the right genre for you to read about. Like so fantasy is a genre that so many people love, and I can understand why so many people love it. It's not my genre personally. It's that type of stuff. I think that type of stuff I can watch in movies, but for reading it, I don't know, it just doesn't personally get me. And even with movies, I'm not a big like fantasy or science fiction type person, and anything related to history is hard for me to get into personally. However, I love mystery and psychological thrillers, and there's even some, and this is a guilty pleasure, there's some young adult I could still read. It really depends though. If it's too, and I mean, I'm 28, so when I say that young adult could be immature, I mean immature for my age, not that it's an immature genre. It's just I'm 28 now. I'm not a young adult anymore. I'm becoming an older adult. So, but I still like, some young adult stuff, but some of it is more on the almost leaning towards like a 17, 18-year-old young adult, like a younger side, where that's like already 10 years ago for me. So it just doesn't do it for me when it comes to reading. But yeah, I know people that, like, there was a lot of people, I remember when like 50 Shades of Grey came out, and there were some people that didn't really like reading, but they loved reading those. I personally cannot stand those books. I don't like how, and I'm not necessarily trying to bash the author. I don't like her writing whatsoever, but I understand why other people do, and everyone has different tastes and stuff. For me, and I just want to say too, yeah, it's not because of what the subject is. Like, I'm not trying to say like I'm like a prude, or like, well, even if you didn't like that stuff, you're not necessarily a prude, but the stuff, like the sexual stuff happening in the book, that wasn't the issue for me, or why I couldn't get into it. It's like, no, I don't mind reading about sex or reading about something that could turn me on, or I don't think anyone should ever like feel ashamed about stuff like happening in the bedroom and stuff, because we're all, we're human beings, and we do that type of stuff, but for me, it was the writing of it. Like, I just didn't. I never want to see the word murmur again, and the writing style just wasn't for me personally. I really couldn't. I don't know. I had to pause a lot, and that's usually not a good sign for me. Like, usually when you're reading a book, you want to just keep flipping the pages. And I remember I kind of had to like pause at certain points, and I'd laugh at certain points. Like I said, it's just personal preference with that I just like couldn't. There's probably other books in the same genre that I could get into more from a different author. Like, I just don't, or maybe not even a different author. Maybe it was just that specific story, and maybe there's something else she could write that I'm like, oh, like that I can maybe click with more. Who knows? Who knows? I'll try not to be like close minded, I guess, when it comes to that. So this is another guilty pleasure. I had no idea that this was a guilty pleasure either, because this is just common for me, I guess, at times. But ordering takeout when you simply don't feel like cooking. If you know me personally, I'll tell you a little story when it comes to cooking. And whenever someone asks me if I like to cook or if I'm good at cooking, this one story I don't think will ever leave my brain, because it's so hard to forget. Like, how do you how do you forget something like this, and how do you do something like this? So there was one time, this happened years ago, but still, like, I think I was a very young but still a young adult that should have. I don't know why I did this, but long story short, I was trying to make mac and cheese, and I literally, for some godforsaken reason, forgot to put water, and I almost set the house on fire. So when people ask if I'm good at cooking, it's like, no. For the most part, like, no, I'm usually not. And I'm not like this top chef type of person. I enjoy baking, and I'm usually, I've baked brownies and stuff. And if you've gone to school with me in certain occasions, or just know, or have hung out with me, you've probably had some sort of my desserts and really enjoyed them, at least what I've heard from people. So yeah, I do. Baking had become very therapeutic for me. I would just play like some nice jazz, or just like nice music in the background, and the stirring of the, like, I wouldn't even, I mean, sometimes I'd use a mixer, but there was times where it was just therapeutic to just stir it yourself, if you didn't have to stir it like 500 times for the batter or whatever. It would just be therapeutic just to stir that. And yeah, hopefully I don't get carpal tunnel. Yeah, hopefully not, but we'll see. Yeah, with this new diet, I haven't been really baking much anyway. But anyway, back to the guilty pleasure. So yeah, I'm getting better with the ordering. There was one point during COVID where, oh man, I think I ordered food like, I think I was ordering food like 4 or 5 days a week. Which yeah, it's a lot. Like that's pretty excessive. That cost a lot. I obviously had the Dash Pass at that point. I feel like if you're gonna order once a week from DoorDash or a company like that, or more than once a week, you probably should have that pass thing to at least get free shipping, because it's like that really starts adding up. And some of the taxes and fees go down when you have the Dash Pass, or Uber Eats thing, or Grubhub, like whatever pass you have from them. But yeah, no, I'm realizing now, because I would order all that food and then I would bitch about like, oh, why am I gaining all this weight? Well, I wonder why, Frank. Like I had to like let me be frank to Frank. Duh. Like, you're ordering like fast food, or you're ordering stuff that's being fried all the time, or in like certain greases, and it's like, well, obvious, you know what I mean? Like, you're not ordering a salad every time, like you're ordering like these crazy big meals. And yeah, so I really had to kind of take control, which, by the way, as I record this, I I'm officially 11 pounds down from when I started tracking. Yeah, COVID, I gained, I want to say like 20 pounds. So I've lost 11 of those pounds now. And oh my God, it's exciting. It feels good. It just feels good to get like any sort of weight off. And like when certain clothes start fitting again better, it's a really good feeling with that. Speaking of food, so another, and I don't do this one much. And if I do it, it's only with one food. So eating food out of a jar. Another one would be like drinking something out of a container. That personally does disgust me when someone drinks out of a container. I did it. I've done it a couple times, and I think I've only done it with water, because I knew no one else was drinking from that jug of water. So I would just like, after like a really long run or something, and I'm like sweating my ass off, then yeah, I would drink, like I would be taking it right from the drug, because I'm like, water, like SpongeBob from that episode. But the one thing that I do eat out of the jar, and like I said, I don't always do this, I usually try to eat like a food with it, or spread it on something, is one, it's my best friend food. One of my best friends in the food category is peanut butter. I am a peanut butter fanatic, and that is something like I could take a spoon of and just go to town. Like and there's been a time too, like years ago, or in the past in general, like I've dipped Oreos in the peanut butter, and just all sort, like oh my God, I just love peanut butter. So it's one thing that I've done that. So I guess it was like kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. And yeah, like I said, mostly with peanut butter. I don't really do that with anything else that I can think of, because usually I would just take like a separate utensil and just spread it on something, and then that's that. But yeah, so this other guilty pleasure, like once again, I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of these I'm like, are these really guilty pleasures? Because it just seems like things that a lot of people do. Like I didn't think, like I'm not ashamed of any of this, honestly. Like I'm trying to like scroll through the list. Maybe like one of the last ones I'm a little bit, but that I could be a little bit of like, yeah, I'd rather not admit that. But everything else, like I don't know, I don't know, I'm not really ashamed of. But so playing games on your computer or phone, I mean, my God, like, how many gamers there are? I know like phone games. So I know like in the video game community, if you're playing a game on your phone, people are like, that's not gaming, which it technically is. But I know like people will kind of tease that. And it's worse for me because of the games that are on my phone, which there's only 2 games on my phone now. I don't want to be on my phone for unnecessary reasons. It's like I'm either talking to people or working off of my phone. I don't really, or doing like a meditation from my phone or a podcast. Like I didn't want it to just like be on a game on my phone for like hours and hours and hours. And then I'm just like wasting my time. I'd rather waste my time in other ways, or feel like that I'm not actually wasting my time. So yeah, I'll say the computer games first, because the phone one, I know I'm going to get judged, but two games that I play on the computer are Sims and Stardew Valley are probably the two I've been playing the most lately. I mean, you could say like Among Us, which I just haven't really been playing that. There's another one I actually can't even remember. Fallout Guys. I was going to say I couldn't even remember the name for a second because that's how long ago that I've played that game. But yeah, there's not really too many games. Like Sims has always been a game I've played on the computer. The system ones are fun, but they are and they aren't. Like I don't know. I have mods for the computer one. If people don't know what mods are, it's just like added content that like random people in the world make to make the game like more interesting. And with something like Sims, like I kind of talked about Sims 4 in a past episode, and yeah, like it's nice to have like certain mods in that game, and that's kind of what keeps me interested because yeah, they're trying to they're really trying. It's I'm just gonna like mini rant a second. So with games like Pokemon, for example, I noticed that there's new ones coming out at the end of the year and next year, and people are bitching about, oh, like they're aiming towards children. Well, in reality, the Pokemon was always for a child audience at the end of the day, because think about when you were attracted to Pokemon for the first time. For most people, you were a child. So like myself. So it's like that, like, yeah, it can be annoying, but I understand why they're doing it because they've always done that for years. They never were like, hey, adults, like I just remember in the 90s, like that was so geared towards children or just like a younger audience. Now, I remember Sims 1. I found out about Sims. I found out about Sims when I was a kid. It came out the year 2000, but adults were telling me about how they played Sims. Like Sims 1, grown adults were playing that game because it was like just a simulation life and you could build families and just like it was just like like I think it was geared towards a lot of different audiences. And now in Sims 4, they're starting to gear more towards a younger audience, and that annoys me a little bit because their initial audience wasn't like that. But I think now that they're under like new management and stuff, it's just, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh well, who can we manipulate the most when it comes to like buying games and this and that, and it's children. It's making children ask their parents to get these various games because as an adult, they know the adult's just going to go and buy it. But with kids, we're so like impulsive at times as children where we just like want right now. Like we want it now. And as adults, we can be that way too. But, as a kid, I mean, there were certain video games I was like, I will die if I don't get this game. Whereas now it's like, I mean, now it's like, I'll die if I don't buy groceries. So, different priorities and stuff as you grow up, of course. And, as a kid, most likely you weren't using your own money to buy a lot of these games. So, I mean, that's a whole different thing too with that. And Stardew Valley is an amazing farming game. The creator goes by Concerned Ape on Twitter and just online in general. I'll always say good things about him. He's such a hard worker. I mean, he built this amazing game that has just taken off when it comes. So if you like farming and just like, and being able to still like marry someone in a game and do the crops and mine and fish and stuff, it's a great game for that. The phone games that I play. So this has obviously changed over time. I decided if I'm going to have games on my phone, they're going to be games that can kind of end quick. So for example, I used to have games like Monopoly, or I used to have that Avengers game, Avengers Strike Force. I had to delete that because once you really start putting a lot of money into a game, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe not this game. Like it's starting to get addicting in that sense. So yeah, some games are just better off you not having them. But now what I have is, and yeah, like I said, Monopoly, and I used to have Ludo, which is pretty much a version of Sorry in a way. And those games are very time consuming, meaning you're going to be on your phone a lot. So one of my games is Uno, because I figure you could just play a hand and you could just stop. Like hands only, they have a timer too on the games, I think. So I think each game at most is a 2-minute game. I think 2 or 3 minutes is the timer at most. So I know I could play a hand or two really quick, whether I'm in the bathroom or waiting in an office somewhere or whatever. And then like bada boom, bada bang. And most likely I'm not going to like be putting a bunch of money into Uno, so I have that game. That's like a safe game for me if I need to have some time go by. My other game is what's like definitely a guilty pleasure, and it's gonna make me sound so nerdy, but I mean, come on, I'm a writer. Like this, that's why I enjoy it. Maybe I don't know. So I have a game called Vocabulary Builder, and it sounds really basic by that name, but what it actually is. So I would actually play this game a lot when I was in the bathroom. If I wasn't reading a book or playing Uno, or before I even had Uno, I had this game. And what this game is, it's literally like there's a few different categories. There's words from the GRE, there's SAT words, and it's pretty much just like quizzing yourself on what words mean, words that usually aren't commonly used and stuff. So, and I wanted to build my vocabulary as a writer and stuff, and wanted to just, I don't know, like learning is fun in general. So, but I know it's like such a nerdy thing to have, because it's like, who brags about like, oh yeah, I know how to use atrocious in a sentence, which that's not even like really a big word or anything, but just for example purposes, like I want to say atrocious. Maybe I need to use Vocabulary Builder after this. I can't say manipulative or atrocious. I just said them both. Of course I did. Of course, that's how life works. So yeah, maybe I do need to brush up. So like like words that you don't always use in your vocabulary. Obviously they get harder than those words, but it's a cool way of just like mixing up your language and your vocabulary, and how certain words you use for writing, and where I was like, oh, that's a different adjective that I could use instead of saying good all the time, or great, or beautiful. Like there's just, different ways of saying things. And as a writer, you want to be as creative as possible. One more thing I saw as a guilty pleasure, it kind of connects to the whole video game thing. And once again, I could see why this is a guilty pleasure, but now, so Animal Crossing, it's become very mainstream now, to the sense that it's definitely, maybe years ago it was a guilty pleasure, because so New Horizons is not the only Animal Crossing game. A lot of people had only played the newest one for the Switch, but that game's been out for years. The GameCube one, is that the very first one? I think I had played that one. A friend got me into that, and I could see why like that would be a guilty pleasure back then. It's still fun. It bases off of real time, and you build, you are paying off a house. And if I were to describe what Animal Crossing is, I know people would be like, that doesn't sound fun at all. But it's one of those games you just have to play it and like experiment with, because if I were to describe it, kind of like Sims, it's like, well, people would probably think like, well, why would you ever play those games? You could just do all that shit in real life for most of it. But I don't know. I think it's because it's just like relaxing. It's not, because don't get me wrong, I like playing games that have like challenges, or I'm fighting enemies or whatever. But once in a while, I need like those other types of games where I can just like relax. I play stuff in the background too, whether it's music or a podcast, and it's just like relaxing. And I just, especially like as we get older as adults, it's like we really need to find as many reasons as we can to relax, to get a break from whether it's work or children or just life in general, because life can get so fucking stressful at times for a lot of us. So it's like we just need your certain outlets. And I don't smoke and I don't drink, so I need something. And this is it. Okay, so another one of my guilty pleasures. I'll kind of go through the rest of these a little bit faster. I didn't think I'd have as much to say as I did about these things, but taking selfie after selfie until you get the perfect one. I'm guilty of that. My first picture never comes out good. Almost never comes out good. It just, yeah. I mean, because for me, it's more so when I'm holding the phone, my arm just starts like shaking and stuff. I don't. It's not necessarily me getting nervous, but I cannot keep my arm straight sometimes. And and that, so the picture will end up blurry and just this and that, and then eventually you start getting really picky about pictures. At least some people do. I'm kind of one of those people where, I mean, if I take pictures with other people, I figure I can only get picky enough. I'm not going to tell people like, oh, delete that photo, or like, no, you're going to put filters on it and make me look a certain way or whatever shit. But when I'm taking a picture alone, I'm like, okay, I want it to be kind of bomb. So yeah, so I mean, I am guilty of that. Online shopping, I'm not ashamed of. I love online shopping. Amazon is like one of my BFFs in that sense. And I know people are going to be like, "Oh, Amazon's like, a big corporation that's like, yeah, Bezos, yeah." But I don't know. I like Amazon. I like Amazon's prices. I like the convenience. I like getting stuff in a couple of days. Staff's always been nice to me. I like Amazon. I even have an Amazon credit card. It got to that point because I was like, well, I'm doing so much shopping on here, might as well, get the reward points. And that usually, depending on whether you have a Prime account or the regular account, it's 3 to 5% for cashback. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna do that. Because there's certain things that I can, get for example, I have an online store and I need to get package envelopes. I used to get them at Target and like Dollar General. I still once in a while will, but on Amazon it's so much cheaper to get. You can get them in such a big bulk where like in store you might get like each envelope will be like, I don't know, like a dollar something, $2 for one envelope, where you could get like a 50 pack on Amazon for $8 to $10. And it's like, well, yeah, that's so much more. It's so much more worth it for that. It's like you can't pass that up. To me, that's criminal to pass that up if you want to save money and stuff. And I'm tracking money, so I try to be careful with that. But yeah, I mean, I shop at like certain clothes places and stuff. I like online shopping. I mean, obviously online shopping has been good during the pandemic and stuff, but just to be honest, I don't always, sometimes when I'm shopping, I don't mind being in like bigger crowds at like the mall or something or in a store. But a lot of the times I don't like having a bunch of people on top of me. And I don't mean in like that sense. I mean just like so many people being near me in a small space. I don't really tend to enjoy that feeling. So sometimes online shopping is nice in that sense. Or sometimes, you might go into a store that's just like completely trashed, and that sucks to shop. It really sucks to clean, coming from an employee side of it. It really sucks to clean and manage, but it sucks to shop it too. It sucks for everyone. It just sucks, sucks, sucks. But so, oh God, this one. Yeah. So this is probably one I'd be actually a little bit embarrassed about, but I know some of you people do this. I know you do. Scrolling back to the first photo on a crush's Instagram account. So, and I don't do this all the time, and it depends how many posts you have. Like if you have over 1,000 posts, I may not go all the way back to the first one. I'm not going to lie. I just did this recently for some guy where I did go all the way back. I don't know. I don't know if everyone has like similar reasonings. For me, why I do it is I kind of like to see like a general transition of that person. Like, oh, okay, like they looked that way, they acted that way, they said those types of things, and then like to who they are now. I feel like instead of just like, it's obviously nice to look at like who they are now, but it's kind of, to me, it's interesting to look at how someone was and like their life stages, and then kind of see how they became the person that they are today. And obviously it's not like they're putting all their information out there on social media, but I don't know, to me it's interesting in that sense when it's someone that I do have a crush on, or that in general I find interesting. So treating their pets as their children, I am guilty of this. Poe is my wonderful dog. He actually went to the vet recently and he's all good, which is good. What's not good was that was $128. So that's not good, the cost of it, but he's healthy. So that's good. He had his little checkup and everything. But yeah, I mean, he has his own. So like, so I guess this is definitely a guilty pleasure in a sense. So he definitely has some outfits he has jackets and hoodies and some sweaters, and like and he doesn't just have those outfits. They're also on miniature hangers in my closet. So yeah, he has his own wardrobe. He has to. I mean, sometimes we have to match when we go out in public. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know why I have so much pride in that. I'm probably going to end up doing that to my children, unfortunately. So to my future children, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry, but I probably will do that at some point, where I just, yeah. And I mean, Poe's my baby. He's my baby boy. I'm always like, my baby boy. I call him a lot of different things. There's a lot of different weird nicknames he has. I've been calling him my little demon prince, which it sounds weird, but because he's a little demon at times, in the sense that, for example, there's another dog that lives here, and like sometimes Poe will take the other dog's toys when he's not supposed to. It's like they have their own toys. They're not good at sharing with each other. Like they're both boys, so it's like they just, yeah, two males most likely, are going to get into it at times. So yeah, so like that will happen sometimes, and I'm like, no, like you little demon, or like, there's times where the dogs have tried to dig holes, and it's like, no, we don't want that in the yard and stuff. So yeah, no, Poe definitely gets treated as a child, but at the same time, I don't mind that because I would love my child to death, and I love Poe to death. So when I shouldn't say if something happens, because unfortunately everyone goes, everyone and everything passes on. I know when that does happen, which I don't want to think about, it's going to be one of the worst days of my life. It's going to be awful. But anyway, so the next one, eating breakfast for dinner. I mean, who hasn't done that? Who hasn't gone to like an IHOP or Denny's at 2 a.m. type thing? Like, I mean, I would count that. I've done that before. I want to say even for dinner tonight, I'm probably gonna have a couple eggs along with like some sort of meat thing and whatever. Like I don't know. Like I don't I know even when I was younger too, and I was eating like pancakes and waffles and stuff, like I could have breakfast every meal at that point. Like breakfast was, yeah. I mean, there's some good breakfast items, toaster strudels, and like I said, pancakes and waffles, and even cereal is a fun time, and oatmeal when you're when you're an old person like me, that was a good one. So yeah, this was the other guilty pleasure that I have done this, and yeah, this is I don't know why this is a guilty pleasure. Like this is just kind of a shitty thing to do that I can admit that I've done. Re-gifting an awful gift. So and it shouldn't be awful gift. It should just be like a gift that maybe you don't like or that you don't have use for. And to be fair to people, I'm not easy to shop for. I like very specific things, and then when and I'm not upfront about it either at times. So then when someone finally figures out what I want, most of the time I end up buying it for myself and I gift myself. And I'm like, oh, thank you, Frank. Thank you for buying that for Frank. And people get so frustrated with me because they're like, or other things that I really like will just be a lot of money where it's like, I can't expect someone to get me that as a gift, like that's something I would have to get for myself. Or if you were a kid, for example, like game systems, kids always want video game systems. Like that's something a parent would get and not like your 8-year-old friend or something. Like, like you don't usually get that from, yeah, usually unless you guys got money and stuff and don't have like limits or whatever. But yeah, there's been times where people have given me things that I just knew like I wasn't going to use whatsoever. And I just thought about like, I can't just like throw away a gift or something. And then but I also didn't want to just like leave gifts in my house. And because I've done that too, where it's just like clutter and you're just holding on to something because you didn't want to get rid of it, but then you never used it either. So it's like someone else might have better use with it. Most likely there's going to be someone that's going to use it more than you. If you already know, you're like, I don't know. So I have, gifted a couple different things. The struggle is making sure you don't gift that person back the gift they got you. Like, do not do that. I almost did that once, and wow, yeah, that would have been general. That would have been general. That would have been horrible. So one last guilty pleasure of mine that I personally added, I didn't see in like examples or on a list or anything, but I would say is one of my guilty pleasures. At the same time, I'm not really that ashamed of it, but I could see why people are like, oh yeah, that's kind of like, like something that people don't normally admit is that I love some good Disney Channel bops. And what I mean by that is Disney Channel made some really good music, and there's some of it I can really get to. I mean, I'm not going to lie. The other day when I took a shower, what is it? High School Musical 2, when Troy Bolton, aka Zac Efron, sings Bet on It, when he's in the golf course, like dancing through the field and stuff. Or wait, Bet on It? No. Or yeah, is that what? Oh my God, I can't remember the name of it. Oh my God, just shoot me in the just shoot me in the chest right now. I, yeah, bet on it, bet on it, bet on it. Yeah, yeah, it's that one. So bet on me. So so that one, yeah, that song get oh my god, I'm like yeah, I'm that one I just really yeah, I mean I kind of want to go sing that right now after this. I probably will. That song is just very catchy to me. I don't know why. It just like it motivates my spirit. Like it opens my core. But that's also like something it's like I shouldn't be like that normally people aren't proud of. But I mean shit, there's some Hannah Montana songs I could maybe still rock out to pre like older Demi Lovato music from like when she was on Disney. I was obsessed with her stuff back then, and I could still listen to some of that stuff today. Like there's definitely some songs that from like Disney Channel that I'm like it's just really good. And obviously there's amazing Disney music from like their classic movies and everything, but yeah, I'm talking about the ones from like Disney Channel where like the actors and stuff had like their certain songs like Miley Cyrus and Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez. Yeah, so I guess yeah, that would be one of my personal guilty pleasures. So I'm realizing I've talked so much already, but I do want to still go through these other guilty pleasures that aren't these are so I decided to come up with all my own first, and then I started seeing what people sent in, and some people got very specific on things. So I'm gonna yeah go through all these. There's not too many, but so guilty pleasure for someone is the first Twilight movie. Now, so that I could understand that. I can, and at the time when Twilight came out for the first time, which was oh my god, like that 2000 to 2010 era is when Twilight came out. So I like I said, it was a weird time during that time period, and some good yet somewhat cringy stuff was coming out during that time. And I could say I love that movie in the sense that some of the scenes now rewatching them are hilarious in the sense of like when Edward Cullen like he protects Bella and the car like gets all smashed up, or she walks in the room for the first time and sees him and he's like barfing to himself. Like there's so many oh my god, there's so many TikToks and stuff now and just like jokes about like some of the scenes in that movie where I love it in that sense that I can go back and laugh at certain things like that. But I also can understand why that's a guilty pleasure for people and why people loved that series and that story. I mean, people were obsessed. I mean, I kind of miss the days of like Team Edward and Team Jacob. And, you know, I remember at the time I was like, oh, like that's God, like that's kind of annoying, like to see people act that way. And it's like now I kind of miss it. It was pure. It seemed pure in a sense where I don't really see that nearly as much today. This guilty pleasure, this next one, I don't get. I'm a big no for it. It's Kids Bop. I haven't met one person in my entire life that has told me they like Kids Bop. But maybe that's why it's a guilty pleasure because no one wants to admit that they like Kids Bop. I I mean I always give everything a chance. I don't know why people like it. The only I understand like for parents, they don't want their kids to listen to certain like swears and stuff, certain lyrics, you know, especially, you know, artists today can get pretty explicit and stuff, which kind of makes the Kids Bop versions interesting. It kind of almost makes you wonder, huh, what words are they going to use to, you know, cover words like ass and pussy and stuff like it. It makes it yeah, I'm thinking of WAP right now. I don't know what the Kids Bop version is of that, if they even made one. Maybe they just avoid certain songs, but yeah. That part to me is interesting. And I mean, hey, Kids Bop is still around, so obviously they're getting enough sales or tons of sales to where they can stay in business. Like obviously they're doing something right in that sense, and I can respect that they're making music, you know, I guess in an appropriate way for children. If you don't want your children to hear certain words and stuff, because you know, as a parent, you have that right to, you know, do that. But yeah, to like actually enjoy the vocals or like really enjoy the music, I just don't get. I feel like that's what Glee's for or something. Like I'd rather listen to Glee music than Kids Bop, but that's just me. So another guilty pleasure. This is interesting to me. Whipped cream by itself. I I feel like that would be very delightful. obviously whipped cream is good on ice cream and stuff. It's a good like cold combo and everything, but whipped cream is this nice like light substance, and I could definitely picture myself just downing a can of whipped cream if I really wanted to. I just don't want to, but if I really had a passion for whipped cream, I probably would have by now, and probably to the point of like inhaling the the container itself, or like the air in the whipped cream container. Like I just yeah, I could definitely see why people would be into that. I've had whipped cream on its own, and it's good. It's good. It's nice and light, and I don't know, it's something that should be considered a snack for people, especially if you're like watching calories and stuff. I think it's a good like like you just spray it and yeah, just eat that nice light substance. So Among Us is another guilty pleasure on here. I'd mentioned them quickly. Among Us is a game on the computer or various systems now too. It's come out. I've seen it on the Switch and stuff. And Among Us, I could definitely see. I'm not super into that game, but I can definitely see the appeal because when I was in high school, I was introduced to these card games called Mafia and Werewolf. I don't know if I'm dating myself here because I don't even know if people still play those, but it's similar to Survivor and Big Brother in a sense, obviously without doing like like challenges and everything, but it's Among Us is pretty well. Among Us, you are doing things in the game, but Mafia and Werewolf, you would get a card from a deck of cards, and if you got like, it could be different. Like, let's just say like you got okay, Joker would be a would be like a card because there's two Jokers or something. Let's say there's like two werewolves or something. So if you were a werewolf, that means you were trying to like eat the townspeople. So like each turn, everyone would put their heads down, someone would die off, and then you'd kind of you're trying to guess who the werewolf is or who one of them is. And that stuff, that was so much fun back then. Among Us is very similar, where a bunch of people are just like the characters, and they're going around like doing certain tasks, but then one or two, I forgot the max, it's either two or three, I think. There's at least one person that's known as the imposter, and it's the same thing. They go around and they except or no, it is, yeah, it's the same because they choose who they like can kill or who they don't kill, and then the whole time it's like having to vote someone off. I forgot to mention that with werewolf, you'd end up voting off whoever you thought the wolf was, and if it wasn't, it's like, oh damn, the wolf's gonna go kill someone else now. And it's kind of like this, it's similar with Among Us, but with Among Us it's not really turn based, it's just like all happening at once, which obviously I can see the appeal in that. That is fun. I just personally don't play that game a whole lot. Maybe because I played a lot of those other ones back then that, yeah, who knows. And also like it became very mainstream, and I don't know, certain things that become mainstream, I will admit I get a little annoyed with, unfortunately. Another guilty pleasure. This one's interesting. I eat the Nesquik chocolate milk powder. I've never tried it. I've never just like ate the powder on its own. I was obsessed with the Nesquik milk in general. And even, not too long ago, I used to get it like in the bottles. So much sugar though. So much sugar. The kind of diet that I'm on right now was pretty much, it's supposed to be no grains and no sugar. I still, well, grains, for the most part, grains, I've been doing a really good job not having any grains. Like, for example, if I had a cheeseburger, it would be the cheese and the patty. There wouldn't be the bread or, whatever. But with sugar, more so, because there's even certain meats that I've had where maybe there was a gram or two of sugar in it. And I just told myself, Frank, like, don't stress yourself out in that sense. I get like you need to be strict in a diet, but with my history of like eating disorders and stuff, whenever I felt like I broke from a diet, that's when eating disorder behavior would be triggered and it would happen. So I told myself that I do want to eat better, but I don't want to stress myself out to the point where it's not even enjoyable to eat, because for so many years it was not, I did not have fun eating. I would dread another meal coming up or feeling hungry and thinking, oh, I have to eat something. I have to eat something where I might gain weight and stuff. So I told myself not to overstress myself out. If I end up eating a sugar or even a grain or something, like, I'm not going to die at the end of the day. But yeah, the whole point of that, why I mentioned that, was now looking at like the Nesquik milk bottles. I I'm someone that used to consume a shit ton of sugar and not really realize it, like a lot. I mean, I was consuming probably at least 200 to 300 grams of sugar a day. I mean, just like crazy amounts of sugar. And because of things, so like the Nesquik bottle, for example, there, I want to say there's like 40 or 50 grams of sugar just in one bottle. Like that's a lot of sugar, for just one little bottle of something. Certain Dunkin's or Starbucks drinks that I used to get, I mean, there'd be like 100 grams just in that one drink of something. And it's like, damn, like that's a lot. And then I'd wonder why I was gaining weight or why my energy like was so good, but then I would just crash and I didn't want to do anything for the rest of the day. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I realized the milk powder I never tried. Yeah, I never tried that personally. Maybe someday I will try a little scoop here and there. That is interesting to me. I could see why that's a guilty pleasure, and if anything, it does make me a little intrigued. A little intrigued. Another one, drinking hot sauce. That does not intrigue me. I could never just drink hot sauce from a bottle like that. I'm working on being able to handle spices better, but oh my god, like God bless whoever can, just like drink that like it's nothing. Like it's a freaking bottle of Kool-Aid or like just like an iced tea and just like this freaking like they're dragons or some shit. I don't know. I just can't, like I couldn't do that. I could not do that one. Sister Act. That would also be a guilty pleasure of mine. At least the first movie. There's one song. I'm like, what's the name? What's the name? What's the name? Because there's a few songs at least in the movie. It has to do with Maria. Oh, Maria. Oh, Maria, I think. It has to do with Maria. It's not the song. I forgot what part of the movie, but it's the part of the movie where kids start coming into the church and stuff. And I think it's the first time that Whoopi Goldberg and the choir kind of show the rest of the nuns and people who attended the church like a different type of music and everything. That movie's amazing, honestly, and that song is like my absolute favorite. Like to this day, I still would enjoy that song. And yeah, I could. I mean, that to me at the end of the day, that's not even really. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure, I guess, but like I think so many people enjoyed that movie, and Whoopi Goldberg is an amazing actress, so she's in so many good things. So I mean that, yeah. No, and I mean Professor McGonagall is in that movie, and come on. So so this next one brings me way back. So online quizzes, which there are still online quizzes to this day, but if you're old and decrepit like myself, you would remember when like on MySpace there was those quizzes or there was like those personality things. I think they still have them, but I think the intro of them was like during MySpace days, was like when people really started doing those online, taking them. I used to be obsessed with online quizzes. And I used, I used to, some quizzes are really embarrassing, and I will admit certain ones I did, but there's some that I would do like about like which Harry Potter character am I, or like which one am I going to be with and stuff. I used to do, this is the more embarrassing. I used to do quizzes on, I used to, for people in the LGBTQ plus community can understand, or if anything, this was probably your answer that you were gay in a sense. If I used to take the quizzes like am I gay quiz and I remember, and sometimes I'd remember it, like there was one that was like you're 100% straight, and I was like who like it was a bad thing or something, like oh good, I'm one of the straights. Whew, that was a close one. But it's, I don't know what I feel like if you're trying to take that quiz, like most likely there's an inkling that maybe possibly you're not straight, but that's just my general opinion on that. But yeah, no, online quizzes overall are I could see, yeah, I can see them being fun and being a little guilty pleasure like that. These next two were very interesting to me, and it's like, and at least this one that I'm about to say, I'm like really tempted to go try, but I don't want to mess up my room or like rip a bunch of stuff from my closet. But being covered by a pile of clothes, and I think they were explaining it a little bit, saying like it's the weight of the fabric on them. And that kind of makes me think of like weighted blankets and stuff, which I tried a weighted blanket, and I think that was kind of triggering like my claustrophobia in a little bit. So this clothes thing, I don't know if this would be for me personally. I can understand that feeling of like comfort and having the weight on you. Cause at first I'm like, what are they just like playing like hide and go seek in a pile of clothes and just like hiding from everyone? Like, I don't know. Like I didn't get that at first, but I think it's like, yeah, that comforted weight of feeling like, oh, like I feel secure. I feel safe. But for me, like I would probably be like, I'm suffocating, like I can't do this. Like pesky denim. And this last one definitely went, I had to put this one because this like just won the guilty pleasure award, I guess, for this episode. Photoshopping pictures of Sylvester Stallone. I mean, I would have never imagined that being a thing of like, I never imagined doing that in my entire life. I'm tempted to go try. I saw some of the artwork. It was very interesting. And I don't mean that in like, well, that's interesting in like a snarky, like, but it's really bad, interesting type of way. Like it actually was really good. And just it was interesting to me because it was like the style of art that I was like, that's actually, that's cool, honestly, in my opinion. And I mean, hey, that's a really cool guilty pleasure to, honestly, that's a great guilty pleasure to have. And if you want to comment on the Instagram post some of your guilty pleasures or private message me some of your guilty pleasures, and I may read some for the next episode.
Hey, Past Frank here, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you subscribe to stay updated on new episodes, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and if you'd like to become a producer or make a one-time donation to the show, click on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. I want to give a special thanks to my executive producer, Monica Lee, and producers Jennifer Herrera, Alexa Hunt, Stephanie Lindsay, Cass Nolan, Elena Rasmussen, and Rebecca Russo. I also want to thank each and every one of you for listening to the show. Have a super special, awesome day, and bye.